I wanted to talk to you about some really common mistakes that most people make when they're on a weight loss journey. I have certainly made every single one of these mistakes. 2 weeks eating pretty much just bananas, or I do like a month eating like only smoothies and gained about 10 kilos, which is 20 pounds. That it was all about getting into a calorie deficit, and a slip up here and there is not going to affect that. Hey, welcome to the channel. My name is Chelsea, and if you're trying to lose weight on a plant-based diet or really any diet and you want to know what to eat for weight loss and also how to get consistent with your habits, then this is the channel for you. I don't know why I did this. I wanted to talk to you about some really common mistakes, 5 to be exact, that most people make when they're on a weight loss journey. I have certainly made every single one of these mistakes, and I wanted to share with you what they are so that you don't have to make them. Let me just share a little bit about my story. I really struggled with my weight loss for probably about a decade. I started trying to diet when I was about 17, 18. I didn't really understand how weight loss worked. I didn't understand how weight loss actually worked up until about 3 years ago, and that's when everything changed. But at that time, I was trying to exercise a ton more. I was trying to cut my portion sizes, and it phenomenally backfired on me. I ended up gaining a ton of weight. I was in Argentina at the time, getting absolutely plied with ice cream and chips and Argentinian barbecue and all this stuff that tasted amazing. I came home from that trip and I'd gained about 10 kilos, which is 20 pounds. And then from that point, it was a real struggle to get that off over the next few years. And I didn't really fully get that off. And when I did, I didn't maintain that weight loss for very long at all. Later on, I discovered something called a fully raw vegan diet. I'd been vegan for about a year at this stage, and I really liked the idea of going fully raw, because I saw vegan influencers and people that had phenomenal bodies, amazing six-pack abs, and they were eating huge amounts of raw food. So at that point, all I'd ever heard about weight loss was you have to cut your portion sizes and you have to eat small amounts. So the idea of being able to eat lots while looking like that really appealed to me. So pretty much every single time that I was trying to lose weight, I would try and do a fully raw diet, and I would do 2 weeks eating pretty much just bananas, or I would do like a month eating like only smoothies and only huge salads. And it was so hard for me to sustain that way of eating, because I was constantly hungry. Raw food digests really quickly, and I would have this pendulum swing where I would be fully raw for a period of time, and then I would just swing to eating Domino's and ordering like my favorite vegan curry and just like brownies and all of the junk food. I never kind of met in the middle with my habits. I never went from fully raw to like a reasonably healthy diet. It was always this huge swing. And I think a big reason for that was that I truly believed that my metabolism was broken. I used to see girls online who were eating kind of like normal foods, and they had like phenomenal bodies, like vegan influencers, and I would think, well, I can't eat cooked food in the morning. I can't eat bread. I can't eat like tons of potatoes and things like that. If I was to do that, then I would be obese. Turns out that wasn't the case at all. As soon as I learned about how to get into a calorie deficit and how to use calorie density, which I talk more about in this video, I was able to start losing weight really quickly, even eating the foods that I thought were no-go zones for me. Things like potatoes and sweet potatoes, rice and beans and all that really good stuff. I went from my heaviest weight, which was about 40 pounds heavier than I am now, and you can see that picture here. This was just after I had my second daughter. I was really just feeling defeated. I couldn't face another raw diet. I couldn't face having a cold smoothie for dinner in the middle of winter, and I was desperate to try anything else. My joints were aching. I had trouble even running 1 kilometer, and previously I'd been like an avid runner. Not that it helped me lose weight. I have to say this was one of the very low points of my life, and it was all about to change. Over the next year and a half, I lost those 40 pounds, and I've been able to maintain now the lowest weight of my adult life, eating as much as I want. I'm not restricting, I'm not having to count calories, and I'm not having to do extreme raw diets to maintain that. After 2 kids, I feel in better shape than I ever did, which is pretty crazy. And I'm so grateful for that. So as someone who has so much experience of doing what is wrong with dieting and what doesn't work to lose weight, I wanted to share with you the top 5 common weight loss mistakes that people make, and I've made every single one of these. So the first mistake that I made was that I was trying to eat too little calories. And this is always confusing when people talk about eating too little calories for weight loss. What I mean by that is not that you've put your body into starvation mode or you're going to break your metabolism if you eat too little, and you're going to train yourself to need that little amount. It does not work like that. It's a total myth. Metabolic damage is a total myth. I hate it so much because it is just really something that instills a lot of fear. I really felt that for a long time, the fear that I could break my metabolism. If you want to learn more about how that actually works, I did a podcast all about it, which you can check out in the description. But what happens when you're trying to eat too little calories is you inevitably end up consuming more than you would have if you tried to eat a moderate amount of calories. And what happens for people when they try and eat too little calories is that they will set a really low calorie goal, or another way that you're trying to eat too little calories is you really cut your portion sizes. And I did this. I was trying to eat like a bird for a long time, and that backfired on me. What happens is people will eat really low calories, and they'll do that for a couple of days, or they might even do it for a couple of weeks. And then you have a pendulum swing that happens when you get too hungry and you run out of willpower, which is always going to happen at some point. So you're eating low calories through the week, and then it comes to the weekend or whenever you lose motivation and you have a huge calorie day. You eat 4,000 calories in a day or 10,000 calories in a day. You have a big binge, or maybe it's late night. You just want to eat all the Ben & Jerry's. One tub of Ben & Jerry's is about 1,500 calories. It's pretty easy to consume that. For a lot of people, that's more than their day's worth of calories if they're trying to lose weight, or about their day's worth of calories in one tub. So what this does is it means that your average calories jump up quickly, your average for the week. Because when you think about an average, what you do is you take every single day and you add that up, and then you divide that over the number of days. So even though it feels like you're eating super low calories during the week, you're actually eating much more on a daily average because of those big binges and those big inconsistencies. And this was something I didn't understand for a long time because I wanted the weight to come off really quickly. So I thought if I do something extreme, I'm going to see weight loss quicker, it's going to be working, but it always backfired on me because I always ended up binging. Second mistake that I made was that I wasn't eating enough filling starches. Those are things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, beans, all of that stuff, which is slightly higher in calories than vegetables or fruit, but super important for your satiety. Satiety is basically a fancy way for saying not only full in terms of volume, like your stomach's actually expanded, but also satisfied. So you don't want to eat anymore. You feel like you've had enough food. Think about after something like Christmas dinner and you like someone brings out dessert and you're just like, no, I can't do it, I don't want to. Even though you love that food, you don't want to eat anymore. So satiety is that feeling. You're not going to get that from just drinking water. You're not going to get that from just eating vegetables. You need those high carbohydrate, high fiber, high satiety foods that I mentioned. And I tried doing a low carb vegan diet for a couple of months, and I was really scared of eating things like potatoes and beans because I thought, well, they're high in calories and they're high in carbs, but they're actually your best friends when it comes to losing weight because they are relatively low in calories. 1 pound of potatoes is only about 400 calories. 4 tablespoons of oil is 480 calories, and that's not going to fill you up at all. A lot of people would use that just as a salad dressing. So Perspective-wise, potatoes are super low in calories and they are awesome for keeping you consistent, and they're just really, really healthy as well. To this day, I have a lot of people message me, especially on Instagram, and they'll be worried about eating too many starches. They'll be wondering how many calories are in sweet potato, and the Japanese sweet potato variety has about 40% more calories. That's what I can find. It is a bit hard to figure it out, but people will message me and they're concerned about this, and I just think, for most of us, the amount of starches that you're eating that are whole foods is not the issue. If you're eating Ben & Jerry's on the weekend, if you're eating out at all, if you've got any kind of binge problem, if you've got any inconsistencies, then sweet potato, whether that's 40% more calories than another sweet potato, is not your issue. So get some perspective, eat a ton of sweet potato and all of these high starch foods, because they are super helpful for your weight loss. The third mistake that I made was trying to follow different weight loss rules, or thinking that different rules were going to lead me to actually losing weight. And I did this for so many years. First of all, it was a low carb kind of vegan diet, and then it was a fruit-based diet, and then it was a raw till 4 diet, and it took me a really long time to get the information I needed. And it's shocking to me that there are so many proponents of diets out there that still don't tell people the reason people lose weight on them. And the reason that anyone loses weight on any diet, be that keto or be that high carb, is that they're in a calorie deficit, which just means that the amount of calories that you burn is more than the amount of calories that you consume, and that creates a deficit. And then what happens is, because your body needs to pull that fuel from somewhere, you still need to function, you still need to like pump blood around and metabolize food, it takes it from your stored fat cells. That's how fat loss works. So I was following rules because I thought that the rules would lead to results. I thought that doing raw till 4 was going to guarantee me to lose weight. The thing is, raw till 4 or a high raw diet or keto diet or eating the kind of way that I do is only going to get you losing weight if you are in a calorie deficit. So rather than using guidelines to design the kind of foods that I was eating, guidelines that would help me lower my calories, I was constantly just following the rules blindly. And then what would happen was, when I would not follow the rules, when I would eat cake where I was meant to eat a banana smoothie, I would give up, because like, well, I've broken all the rules and so therefore I'm going to fail. I could have still seen results if I'd understood that it was all about getting into a calorie deficit, and you know, a slip up here and there is not going to affect that as long as you're doing things to lower your overall calorie consumption. Something that came along with this was that I was always obsessing over what other people were doing and what other people were eating. And now it's funny, because I see this mirrored back at me in people that message me and they say, why is this girl online, why is she skinny eating the way that she eats, because she seems like she's eating tons of calories, or she seems like blah blah blah. And it's like, that is so irrelevant to you getting into a calorie deficit, especially if someone hasn't lost weight eating the way that they're eating. They've maintained that, or they've gained weight. Instead, I should have been focusing on, how do I get into a calorie deficit? How do I lower my calories from my starting point without having to cut my portion sizes? And you can do that really easily through calorie density. These are the kind of meals that I eat now. They're filling, they're delicious, I never have to go hungry, and they're low in calories. And that's how I've lost the 40 pounds. It's nothing amazing or special or magical. It's just that I learned how to eat that got me into a calorie deficit without needing to restrict. Now I'm not looking for constant meal inspiration. I'm not being swayed when I see someone making up like an amazing meal and overanalyzing it. I'm focusing on what works for me. I'm creating meals that I enjoy, and I'm not needing to look for constant inspiration, because I understand how it works and I can design meals that I know keep me in a calorie deficit, or did keep me in a calorie deficit, now at maintenance. And I'm not making complicated meals that I would never be able to stick to eat anyway, or that I couldn't use in my country. A lot of the raw foods that I was trying to eat, I don't even have access to in New Zealand. And I definitely don't want to be eating a freezing cold smoothie in the middle of winter. The fourth mistake that I made was that I was trying to exercise too much for weight loss. And weight loss is not about exercising a ton. it is about being in a calorie deficit, and exercise doesn't actually contribute to that much, because when you exercise, let's say that you are burning 200 calories in a half an hour workout, which is probably about right. You're very, very likely to offset that extra calorie burn by moving less throughout the day. Maybe you sit on the couch more, you fidget less. So over the course of the day, it kind of equals out so that you're not really burning more calories than you would, unless you're exercising a ton. I'm talking hours a day of cardio. But what happens when you over-exercise is that you get really, really hungry. And that's another reason that your calories tend to stay similar, or your calories coming in and your calories coming out tend to equalize even if you're exercising lots, because when you're hungrier, you're going to be eating more. You're more likely to binge. You're more likely to get lots of cravings. And this is exactly what happened to me. I was doing all of this running to try and lose weight. It was so incredibly slow. I'd taken about 6 months to lose 5 kilos. And then I had a running injury. So when I stopped exercising due to that injury, I gained like 5 kilos back in the course of the month, because I'd gotten used to eating such huge portions. I was also eating just really the wrong kinds of foods, tons of coconut cream and high fat, high calorie foods as well. But it was, I'd kind of been like holding it at bay almost, because I had been exercising so much, and as soon as I stopped, the weight came back on again. So don't focus on extreme amounts of exercise when you want to lose weight. Exercise for your mental health, exercise because it's really good for you, but don't rely on that as a weight loss tactic, because it really isn't. And the fifth mistake that I made was that I constantly made things way too hard for me to actually stick to. And if you remember that I talked about rules, it was kind of the same kind of thing. I would set myself up with these extreme rules, and full disclaimer, I don't think there's anything wrong with having guidelines for yourself. Guidelines are super important because they teach you what is actually going to work, right? And then you've got wiggle room within there. But because I constantly was saying, okay, I have to go fully raw, or I have to do this like extreme challenge, and I'm never allowed to do whatever it was, like eat cake or anything like that. When I did, which you inevitably will, when I failed, when I gave in to cravings, I always felt terrible, because I'd set the bar so incredibly high. And if you're just starting out, like everyone does at some point, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. You're going to find yourself in situations where you give in to temptation, you do things that you say that you're not going to do. And I would always beat myself up because I'd made it really hard for myself to stick to, and then I'd set the goal as perfection. So rather than setting this perfectionist goal, set a goal for improvement. This is one of the most important things you can do if you want to see success on a weight loss journey or any kind of behavioral change, is see improvement as a win. So improvement looks like dealing better with failure than you did, picking yourself up. It doesn't mean never failing. It could look like having a slightly better version of ice cream, a lower calorie, more whole foods version of ice cream than your regular Ben & Jerry's. It could look like putting broccoli with your side of takeout pizza rather than just having all pizza, which is what one of our Amazing Lean with Plants members, Natalie, did, and she ended up losing 50 pounds just by starting this way. So when you're starting out, don't make the mistake of making things so hard to stick to and then setting the bar so high that you feel demoralized all the time. Set it as improvement, and then you will be able to gain momentum because you feel like you're making progress, and you are. It's not easy to lose weight. I'm not going to tell you that it is, but it doesn't have to be as hard as struggling through a ton of rules, trying to eat tiny portions, constantly just feeling like you are ravenously hungry and wanting to binge. There is a better way, and that is to use calorie density to eat a ton of food while lowering your overall calories, not killing yourself with exercise, and focusing on improvement rather than needing to get it perfect all the time. I hope that you found this video helpful, and I'd love to hear in the comments what are some of the mistakes that you've made. Maybe you feel like you're making mistakes now. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel.